Welcome back to the Realm Report. It's been a very busy month with multiple things happening around the old world. There's plenty to discuss, so let's jump right into the topics. First, I'd like to address a recent change to the Overworld strip mine that's accessible through the Nether Hub. Earlier in the month, it was suggested that we adjust the portal location for the strip mine, as over the past 2 years, the mine has been basically torn apart. So this month, Rescuelin and Black Lightning went ahead and added an additional portal further down the path that opens up a newer section of the mine. The new portal is located directly behind the previous one, so if you'd like to access the old location for whatever reason, that's still an option. There's been a bit of a controversy brewing between two different communities in the old world. As many of you know, following a bizarre series of events, Plague Doctor was officially granted a charter and became the mayor of his own community. This fell under particular criticism from Princess, who believed that the proximity of the charter to the capital meant that it should technically fall under her jurisdiction. For several weeks, the two would go back and forth debating on an official borderline between the two locations, but were having difficulty coming to an agreement. Through each subsequent debate, Princess could see that Plague was becoming more and more frustrated with the situation, and was concerned that he may take a more aggressive course of action. Having worked with him previously when they were both groundskeepers through their time in A&W, she was well aware of his sneaky and conniving ways. But at the same time, she also knew that he could easily be manipulated. So in an effort to figure out what he was planning, Princess agreed to design a nether tunnel that would give her unprecedented access to
Gfx.
And while snooping around in one of Plague's giant empty buildings, Princess was shocked to learn that Plague was planning a full-scale invasion of the capital that would enable him to instantly expand his own community and put an end to the borderline discussion once and for all. Fortunately for Princess, there was still time, as by this point Plague had burned bridges with most of his allies and didn't have the numbers needed to launch an assault. So Princess attempted to rally the residents of the capital with an impassioned speech about solidarity and defending what's rightfully theirs. But when that didn't work, she was forced to get creative and think outside the box. If she couldn't assemble an army that was willing to fight for her, perhaps she could hire actors who could play the role of soldiers. And luckily for her, she knew exactly where to find some. Meanwhile, White Like Snow had been having difficulty finding work for the other clones. With the Wargames arena completed and no more tasks for them to do, Snow was forced to let them go. Bitter about how they'd been treated by the old world, the trio discovered that Plague had finally chartered the community that was responsible for their very existence. Angered to see him having success while they continued to struggle, the three decided to pay him a visit, and under the cover of darkness, they infiltrated Plague's castle on a mission to eliminate him. But when Plague realized what was happening, he saw it as an opportunity, reminding them that it was Princess who had crushed their dreams of working for A&W and offered them the chance to take revenge. If they could help him take over the capital, he'd provide them with a permanent residence on his recently crashed Star Destroyer. Unable to pass up the offer, the clones joined forces with Plague, and it was decided that they'd strike at sunrise. Back at the studio, Princess had been in heated contract negotiations with her actors, who believed they deserved more gems based on the critical success of their cult classic short film, Princess v Zulu. Knowing that time was of the essence, Princess agreed to their terms, and arranged the actors to appear as though they were ready for war. At sunrise, Plague headed out as planned, but was surprised to see that the capital now had an army of its own. Luckily for Princess, despite his giant bugged-out eyes, Plague has incredibly poor eyesight, and was unable to tell the difference between a bunch of motionless armor stands and living, breathing oldies. And fearing that they would be easily overrun, Plague and the clones retreated into the castle. And that's basically where things stand right now. The two opposing forces are currently locked in a standstill. If there are any future developments regarding the situation, I'll be sure to let you know. As many of you know, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find end cities that haven't already been raided. There have been several discussions in the past about potentially resetting the end on a recurring schedule. The last time this was talked about, I said I was waiting to see what would happen with the 1.20 update, as I thought it was possible that Mojang may be doing something with that. However, with the update right around the corner, I figured it was time to revisit the topic and set a standard for how often these resets would occur. Ultimately, I decided that we'll be resetting the end every 6 months. The first of these resets will be taking place in June, with the second one happening in December. As you may or may not know, the 1.20 update will be introducing the Spire Armor trim, which will only be attainable in end cities, so this will help move that content closer. Although this is technically a reset, it won't be a full one, as for the time being, I'll only be resetting everything outside of the main end island. Of course, it's possible these plans may change down the road if we ever do see an update specifically focused on the end, but for now, this is how we'll be handling things moving forward. As I mentioned last month, we've been holding a series of group builds over at the golf course as we've been working towards setting up a dedicated shootout area. This month, we were able to make a lot of progress. On the May 3rd group build, we successfully laid down carpet and lit up the area to prevent mob spawns. On May 10th, we started working on the course itself by adding the perimeter walls and setting up a series of rings. There's still some work to be done before the project is completed, but it should definitely be finished by July. Next month, I'll provide more information on how the shootout area will be used for future Ender Golf events. Following our group build on May 3rd, a few of us headed over to the new Canaan area to test out a really fun game by Half-Assed Guy that he's calling Swimball. Swimball is a passing game where two teams will work their way down the court as they attempt to score on the opposing team. The person with the ball can only move up or down, and their teammates must avoid giving the ball to the other team as they try to get open and catch the ball themselves. We're still trying to iron out the details of how we could set this up as an event, but it's possible we may even take a different approach with it. You see, there's a ton of potential here for essentially creating a league within the old world, where teams from different communities could compete against each other in a series of matchups throughout the month. This is obviously big picture thinking, and would ultimately be dependent on oldie participation, but it's definitely something I'd like to see happen, as it would allow for more flexibility in terms of scheduling, and give some people who can't attend the Sunday events more of an opportunity to get involved. For now, I encourage everyone to at least try the game out and get a feel for how it's played. Half-Assed Guy has been holding scrimmage matches to test out different aspects of the game, so be on the lookout for those. On May 8th, Peculiar announced the One Chunk Build Competition. The concept for this competition was that oldies were assigned a single chunk and were instructed to build a tower using only resources acquired within that chunk. It's definitely unique from other build comps we've done so far, and I hope to see more stuff like this in the future. Initially, this competition was scheduled to end on the last day of the month, but as usual, Princess requested a 2-week extension. A winner will be determined sometime in June. On May 14th, we held the third race in the Grand Prix series over at the Aquarius. While we did have some issues with slime, it was nowhere near as bad as it had been for the Nether Colony Grand Prix. Overall, we had a few close races, but this one once again came down to a matchup between Chozo and Peculiar, with Chozo winning his third race for the year. Peculiar came in second, with Half-Assed Guy claiming third place, which was his first trophy in a tournament-style event. On May 28th, we held the first ever War Games event in a special battlefield designed by Willow. We had a pretty good turnout for the event, with 21 oldies participating. While the event itself went pretty well, unfortunately we had to deal with some lag issues along the way. The initial intention behind the Hardcore Resource Pack was to create a better viewing experience for spectators overall. While this worked well for the Withering event in April, this time around there were a lot of issues with rubber banding, which made spectating pretty frustrating at times. Ultimately, Plague Doctor 487 would go on to win the event, with Born to Kill coming in second, thanks to everyone who joined us for War Games. Next month, we'll be heading back to the arena in the capital for Panda Spleef Spectacular Round 4. Everything for this event will be provided to you, so after you've made your way over there, just be sure to claim a locker room on the lower level of the arena. This has traditionally been a very lag-filled event, with oldies falling into lava and then suddenly bouncing back out. As there's really no way around this, the general rule is that the first person to actually catch fire will be eliminated. Despite the technical issues, it's still a popular event among oldies, so I hope to see you on June 25th for Panda Spleef Spectacular Round 4. And that wraps things up for this edition of the Realm Report. See you on the server.
let me reset.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
You just hit white. That was great.